Today is a great, wonderful, amazing, incredible day, and I'll tell you why. Because it's a Denmark Day. Don't move to Denmark in 2024. 7 reasons it's not for me. Without further ado, let's get into this reaction. Let's go.
I love living here, but absolutely Denmark is not a place for everyone. Look, there's no perfect country and every destination has its pros and its cons, including Denmark. So in today's video I'll tell you 7 reasons why you should not move to Denmark. Number 1 is that it's cold and dark.
I mean, if you move to Denmark and you are like, oh, I don't like it here, it's cold and dark, it's like, mate, you move to Denmark knowing where it's located geographically and you're going to complain about the weather and complain that it's dark. Priorities. This wouldn't deter me because, I mean, I'm from England. It's not too different. Dissimilar.
And let's start again with this that is obvious. Denmark is not that cold. So at least it's never too long under zero. But it's cold enough for a long time that it's already...
Are you guys on the same latitude as us? You might be actually, Denmark. I feel like your weather's probably quite similar to Britain. Let me know in the comment section below, because I mean, I've been looking at Sweden and Finland and a bit of Norway, and obviously they're a bit more north and they're colder. But Denmark, actually, when I look at you on the map, if I am correct, I feel like you'd probably have a similar climate to, like, say, Scotland. Let me know.
Already a no-go for a lot of people. Expect cold for, what, 6 months? October, November, December, January, February, March. That's all cold normally. What I mean with cold is that think of wearing a thick jacket, wearing gloves, scarf, hat, and all that for a good part of those 6 months. And then you add rain to the mix, wind, and so on, and you will have a handful. There are, of course, strategies on how you can cope with this, and I made a whole video that's going to be linked over here. But if you're the type of person who loves being outdoors all the time and enjoying again times in the parks and so on, Denmark and Scandinavia are not the place to go for you. Even if you don't care.
I don't know, you can still go to the park when it's cold. Actually, sometimes I like going to the park when it's cold. Get wrapped up, warm, hats, gloves, just wrapped up, and then just having a, like, you know those days, I miss these days because currently I'm in Asia, crisp winter days where the sun is shining and it's completely blue sky, but it's freezing cold. It's like 0 degrees, or maybe 1 or 2 degrees, but the sun is shining. So you get that kind of winter warmth, that winter heat from the sun, but like the atmosphere is freezing cold. Those are nice days. Those are really nice days. Only if you're from, like, I don't know, Northern Europe, you'd understand.
Care much about the cold, it's the darkness. So I have friends, and myself even, I would say, considered in this bucket, that while we have been fine with the cold and sometimes even enjoy the cold, I mean, I know people that prefer cold and warm, the darkness is just too much to handle. And just for context, November and December are very, very dark here. So dark as 8 AM is dark, and dark as 3 PM is dark. 5 PM is dark as midnight. So it's pretty freaky, so and you need to do stuff to cope with it, like having vitamins, having a social life, doing sports, having this hoogie mentality. It's definitely not for everyone. I know.
In the UK, it gets dark. The earliest it gets dark is probably about 4 o'clock. I'd say 4 o'clock, but from 3-ish, it starts to get darker. But like at the height of winter, the earliest it gets dark. Sorry, I was just like, what's that going on outside? I was being nosy. The earliest it gets dark in the winter is 4 o'clock. And I agree with him. Like, I don't particularly like that about living in Northern Europe. Because I just remember I used to go to work. I used to work in a hospital. And I'd wake up in the morning and it would be dark. And I'd do a 12-hour shift. And then I'd come home and it'd be dark. There was no escaping the dark. There were a lot of times where I just did not see the sun at all, and I was definitely deficient, severely deficient in vitamin D. So yeah, I'm not a fan of that. I don't mind it for a little bit, but not too much.
I know many people that after just one winter here in Scandinavia said, enough, and move on somewhere else. Your mileage may vary on this, but obviously, right? You can't underestimate it, especially again if you're not from Europe already. I have been here for more than a decade, I have to say now. So I have been 12 years in Denmark and still make sure to at least travel 1 full month over the winter period, if not more. By the time you're watching this video, I'll be taking 2 months off, just smack in November and December to get out of here by this time.
Clever.
Next up.
In fact, sometimes I don't know why when I lived in the UK that I used to stay for Christmas. I think maybe going forward we'll probably end up going to a hot country during Christmas time. Especially in like, you want to be in Asia, like Thailand and those, because winter, or even the Caribbean, winter is like the best time around the equator because just the weather's the best. Obviously winter's terrible in Northern Hemisphere, but yeah, maybe I'll start doing that in the future. When I move back to Europe next year, I'll probably end up going on holiday.
There are no mountains in Denmark. So if you thought that, oh wow, it's dark and cold, but then maybe you can do some winter sports, you're wrong. Denmark is so flat that there's no chance for skiing here. When I say it's flat, the highest peak in Denmark is a place called Målehøj, and it's only 170 meters above sea level. For context, that's like nothing, and also there's some hills in some cities that are taller than this. So if you want to ski or snowboard, you need to go to Sweden or to Norway or to the Alps. You can, of course, there's a place called Copenhagen, or there's a complex called Copenhagen in Copenhagen, but doing that over and over can get old pretty fast. Adding to this, there's a kind of paradox here, right? If you ask me, one of the most favorite things I have about living in Copenhagen is how green it is and the amount of parks and wilderness and outdoor options that you have, again, directly in the city. It's amazing. But on the flip side, in the country as a whole, you have very few options. So you have sailing, which is incredible here, but beyond that, it's not that you have trekking places or scenic routes or anything like that. Again, it's just pretty flat. Denmark is not a place for the highly ambitious. Denmark is an egalitarian society. It's part of the national character of Denmark that you're not better than anyone else. And there's a whole concept here called a janteloven that basically touches on this. So if you really want to stand out, if you are an ultra ambitious overachiever, you're not in the right place if you're in Denmark. You will be either pushed down back to earth or you will lose some of your motivation. Again, it doesn't...
Interesting. You're not ambitious people. Is this true? Because I know there'll be loads of Danish people in the comment section saying, I'm ambitious, I work really hard. So let me know. This guy's not Danish, but he's saying from his experience, this is what he feels that Danish people are like. That it's not a place, or not like, but like, it's not the place for people that want to be ambitious. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. Yeah, I don't know. Is it? I don't know. I think it's a sweeping statement. I think any capitalist society, I mean, there's no reason why you can't thrive being ambitious. So I don't know. I don't know what he means by that. But let me know in the comment section if you do. And your day.
It doesn't mean that you can aim big and you can do great things here. I mean, a lot of people do, but you'll not have the same vibes as you'll have in a place like New York or London or Shanghai, where people are working, their rear ends off, pushing for change in the world and so on. Here it's more of like a slow and steady. Just go to a startup hub on a Friday at 6 p.m. and see how many people are there. And don't get me wrong here, in Denmark you can be ambitious. Like the work-life balance that you get here allows you to, for instance in my case, build a side hustle like this or travel the world as I have done. But if you want to climb the corporate ladders or have a world-beating entrepreneurial career, like Denmark is not the best place to be. And again, to give perspective on this, and this is important, my really ambitious Danish friends, like the very, very ambitious guys that I know from Denmark that were born here, they have all left the country to either the UK, the US and so on. At least until they got kids and got married and so on, and then they thought like, hey, maybe it's good to come back to Denmark. But at least they have spent a decent amount of their career outside of Denmark. In Denmark, it's hard to make friends. Look, it's definitely more work to make friends in Denmark than it's in other countries. And it's of course possible, and for example I can testify for myself, you have a thriving social life and many friends here, but you need to put a lot more work than you do in other places. Again, this is especially true if you come as an adult, and even more I would say if you have a family and kids. You need to work on it, you need to put energy into it. In a way it feels like social interactions are more regulated here than in other places, so in many cases if you want to meet friends, you need to look weeks ahead into their calendar to see when they have time so you can book them. Again, not all.
But that's weird. He said book you guys, but then he's in another vein basically said you're not very ambitious. So what are you doing? Why would I need to book you in if you're not very ambitious? I don't know. I just think it's a Scandinavian thing. I think it's similar in Sweden and Finland. Like maybe you're very quiet. I heard that Danes are a bit more outgoing than those two countries, but I still think it reigns true that you kind of keep yourselves to yourself, very independent nation. So maybe that's why. And also, to be fair, when you're adults, it's hard to make friends anyways. I'm currently in the market for new friends, so let me know if you want to be friends. And it's hard. It's hard to make friends as an adult. But like you said, you just need to put the effort in. You need to really maintain that friendship and build it and really water it like it's a plant. Otherwise, it will wither and die. So I think that's the same in any country, in any city in the world, to be honest.
Not always and not for everyone, and I think it's getting better to like 5-6 years ago, but it's still quite common that people are very structured. So again, people are nice. Don't expect again that people are not nice. People are very nice here, but just don't expect this spontaneity and warmness that you will see in Southern Europe, in Africa, in the Middle East, Latin America where I'm from. There's just a bit more distance here, less touchy and so on. Next up is that there's a lot of alcohol. Look, there's a lot of alcohol in Denmark. We're talking about beer, wines, liquors. All that is very interlinked as a part of the Danish social life, and a lot. Okay. So if you come to Denmark for studies, for instance, or as a young person, or you want to socialize, if you don't drink, it's gonna get weird pretty fast. I remember even like just a few years ago when I was going out with friends a lot more than I do now, so before the kids mostly, I would be going out again with friends 3 to 4 times a week for multiple things, and I said like, okay, for 1 month, I don't remember how it came up to be, right, but it was like for 1 month I'm not gonna try any alcohol, just for 1 month. And again, I don't really drink much normally anyway, and it was just so hard. There's alcohol in almost every setup, and all my friends all the time were asking me like, hey Mario, what's wrong with you? Why are you not drinking? And again, I know I'm famous for not drinking much anyway. If you're older and have a family, maybe this doesn't apply much to you, and I'm like basically hardly drinking now anyway, and I think people accept it better now than before, but it's still pretty weird. I would think
it is it's a social faux pas. It's the same in the UK. It's like if you go out with like your work colleagues and you're not drinking and you say, oh, I'm not drinking, everyone will look. Even I've done this to other people, like, you're not drinking, what's wrong? Are you all right? Why are you not drinking? Oh, just have one. Just have one. Just one drink and then you'll be fine. Oh, you're driving? Okay, maybe you can't drink. I guess you could have half a pint. No, I'm joking. I wouldn't encourage anyone to drink and drive. But you know what I mean? Like we're also the same. I think we have the same culture. A nation of drinkers, and we socializing and drinking alcohol go hand in hand, are quite synonymous with one another. So it's kind of, it's probably not the greatest thing. It's probably not a good thing to tether towards socializing, because you don't need to drink to socialize. But I just think it's just in our culture, and I think it's in Danish culture as well. So we've got that in common. So I'll be very used to that if I go to Denmark. So it's not a problem for me. But I can imagine for someone who's teetotal, it's difficult.
I would think where in South America, where I'm from, this is definitely a lot more uncommon. Like you drink when you go partying and so on, but it's just not like for every occasion it's here. Next point is that in Denmark you pay too much in taxes. And what I'm going to say is controversial for some people, but the reality is that there's a point that if you are making too much money, it just doesn't make any financial sense for you to live in Denmark. It's controversial for some people, but the reality is that if you look at the math, even if you wanted to live in Denmark, it's such a bad deal when you have a lot of money versus almost anywhere else in the world, like even considering to Sweden or Switzerland or anywhere else in Europe as well, that it's just easier for you to live. So if you already made a difference and want to live off your capital gains, like a lot of rich people do, so basically you want to live from your investments, Denmark is about the hardest place in the world to do that. Again, the taxes are super high, the cost of living is very high as well, manual labor is super expensive, and so on. Again, this is by design. Denmark is an egalitarian place, and if you're too rich, or if you're much better off than everyone else, you'll get a lot less bang for a buck somewhere else than here. And if you're curious, on my investment course, and there's a link down to it in the video description, I made a whole video where I explain through in depth.
Wait, he has an investment course, yet he lives in Denmark. Huh? That's kind of contradictory. Like, wait a minute, what? He has an investment course, and he just told us that Denmark is not the best place if you are an investor to live in, but he lives there. So if he's doing an investment course, and clearly he is an investor. Anyways, let's not ask questions.
depth the exact calculations I made on when is it the best time to actually leave Denmark and get your capital gains somewhere else. Last point is that small town Denmark is boring. Look, if you plan to move to Copenhagen, this doesn't apply. And if you plan to move to Aarhus or Aalborg, even Odense, maybe it doesn't apply either. But if you're planning to move to a small town in Denmark, just be aware that it can get really boring. I would never do it. I'd rather live somewhere else. Again, the exception could be that if you come for studying, which can always be fun regardless of where you are. But if you're moving for work to a small town in Jutland, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I would make the decision, let's put it that way. It would be a big battle on how much, this super nice Danish work culture and the safety the kids could have can offset life in a cold, dark, small town where you'll need a car for almost everything.
It's probably really good to raise a family in Denmark. It sounds, I'm getting a good idea of what Denmark's like.
And where the social life will likely be non-existent. If you're planning or you have the opportunity to move to a small town in Denmark, I would definitely fly in first, check the place out with time before you make any type of commitments. And if you enjoyed this video, you'll definitely love this one where I go through what are the best ways you can pitch Danish people.
Interesting. I'm gonna take this with a pinch of salt. I'll move my head there because I know the screen is over there. A pinch of salt because, he's not Danish. He lives there, but he's not Danish. So I would like to know from you guys who are Danish. Let me know in the comment section how accurate this is. He might be completely accurate. And this is a very good analysis of the reasons why you shouldn't move to Denmark. But equally, it might be inaccurate. So let me know in the comment section below. I'm going to watch next. I'll link it in the end credits probably. I'm going to watch the video, the opposite video. He did an opposite video. Reasons you should move to Denmark. And see how different that is. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Until the next one, I will see you very soon.